Colonel Layton, we know that the target was ISIS, ISIS K, a tunnel complex. What kind of intelligence would have been gathered before this bomb was used?
So, Don, normally what would happen is they will look at the geography of the place. They would look to see how many people are entering tunnels like this. They would look to see who was in those tunnels. And if they had any links to ISIS, they obviously established a link to ISIS in Afghanistan. And they also wanted to make sure that they knew what those people were up to. And our understanding is that they were doing things to include making IEDs and other weapons. And it proved to be a target that they felt they could not only prosecute with this weapon, but also make sure that they would not only do that, but protect the U.S. forces that are stationed in Afghanistan.
Julia Kayyem, on Saturday, January 28th, the president signed an executive order ordering the Joint Chiefs to develop a plan to defeat ISIS. Here's what candidate Trump said on the campaign trail.
I would just bomb those suckers. And that's right. I'd blow up the pipes. I'd blow up the I'd blow up every single inch. There would be nothing left.
So my first question is about the timing of this. We're just 2 weeks away from President Trump's 100th day in office, and he wanted a plan for his generals. Did he get it?
Well, we don't know what the content of that plan is, and obviously when Donald Trump was talking about it as a candidate, he was actually focused on Syria and Iraq and not in Afghanistan. So the location of where we're bombing, you know, everyone to smithereens, so to speak, to use his language, is actually a very different geographic space. And I have no way to judge right now whether, given the alternatives, this was the right thing to do or not. I have confidence in our military effort. I think the question for the rest of us who want to look at some notion of what are the policies surrounding these various missiles or bombing missions is, what is the strategy in which you have a civilian oversight over the policy? I think, with all due respect to the generals on the panel, they even recognize, right, that the bombs themselves, that's just a tactic. And I think one of the worrisome things about Donald Trump not even being able to directly answer whether he had notification or whether anyone in the White House had notification is that we are looking at a world now that is very different, in which the military has a range of activities in which not only do they not seek authorization from the White House, which may be appropriate, but they don't even appear to notify the White House. And we have no clarity on that issue right now.
You think he should be more specific about whether he ordered it or not? I thought he was pretty clear in that he had given the generals or given the leaders the orders. Do you think he should more?
He had delegated the authority, but the specific action, it appears, and there's a difference between notification and authorization. The specific action, we have no clarity on whether anyone at the White House actually knew it was going to happen. Right. That's a very, very different relationship between the White House and the Pentagon, and there has been tension since the country was born about that tension. Nonetheless, it is a change of strategy, and one that does not seem to be tied to any doctrine related to why this bomb in Afghanistan, why those missile strikes in Syria.
All right, Jack, what does this mean for the president's America First foreign policy?
I think this is consistent with his campaign, that we are going to bomb ISIS, and he did not limit that to any geographic area. But I think it's also a message to our own military that this is a tactical weapon. You have the authority, you have the training, use it if you need it, and go ahead. I'm going to be behind you. Whereas I know with rules and engagement under Obama, there was always this, well, let's check with Washington before we engage in the battlefield. And as somebody who had the honor of representing the 3rd Infantry Division, that was the #1 complaint we heard about family members. So I'm glad to see the generals and the people on the ground making these decisions. But I want to say something else. In an area where you're going underground and in tunnels and so forth, there's also a message, I believe, to North Korea.
That was my next question. What kind of message does it send to North Korea and other trouble hotspots around the world?
I think the message is, #1, we can use a bomb that's 13-year-old, 14-year-old bomb. Think what we have developed since 2003.
All right. I want you to listen to this was candidate Trump in the fall.
Now, this just came out. This just came out. WikiLeaks. I love WikiLeaks. And I should write a couple of them down. And by the way, WikiLeaks just came out with lots of really unbelievable things just minutes ago. In fact, I almost delayed this speech by about 2 hours. It's so interesting. By the way, did you see another one? Another one came in today. This WikiLeaks is like a treasure trove.
And this was President Trump's CIA director today.
It's time to call out WikiLeaks for what it really is. A non-state hostile intelligence service often abetted by state actors like Russia.
General Marks, that's quite a contrast. Was the president essentially touting an enemy of the United States when it served his political purposes?
I would say that candidate Trump really didn't have a sense of what WikiLeaks was in its totality and the depth of what it could go to. I would say maybe he had a clear understanding of what they had access to. But there were other sources of intelligence, obviously, that he either didn't have access to until he was elected and wasn't able to really kind of delve into those fully. So the contrast between what Mike Pompeo said today, the DCI, and what the president said as a candidate is a stark shift. And it comports with what we're seeing, which is a president that now has to embrace the realities and make the realities his. And that's what that's what we're seeing right now, an evolving president where the conditions around him haven't necessarily changed, but he certainly is changing.
All right, stand by, everyone. When we come back, British intelligence intercepting Trump associates' communications with Russians. We have new details on that.